Hi there, this is Solitary Ronan from Solitary Ronan Films, and welcome to another random review. I can't believe I'm doing this, but this is another modern film from 2017. It's the Hungarian film On Body and Soul by Ildikó Enyedi, which probably isn't the proper pronunciation, who also directed My 20th Century. This is a Mubi Blu-ray release. I do love the Mubi slipcovers, I don't know why, but I just like their different range of colours that they use. Also this one is quite muted in colour. Again, this is from 2017, 6 years ago already, but it counts as a modern film for me. And this is a wonderful film that people might hate. If you're a vegetarian or vegan, you might dislike this film. It takes place in an abattoir, if you want to be polite, or a slaughterhouse, if you want to be honest. And it features a couple of misfits. Not the band. Maybe it's just me, but characters like that I'm automatically hooked into. I can't imagine why. But the film opens with beautiful shots of deer in the forest and the snow, and that is cut between the killing and slaughtering of some cows. There is a note at the end of the film that it's a real slaughterhouse, so these cows were being killed anyway, they weren't killed for the film or anything like that, because I think that's frowned upon these days. So automatically we're kind of a little bit on the back foot as the film opens up like a nature documentary and then a slaughterhouse documentary. Then we're slowly introduced to what will become our two lead characters. We have a man who is the finance director, who has a kind of stricken arm. But one of the nice things about this film, it doesn't explain everything, so we never find out why he's got a paralysed arm. And we meet his friend, who is one of those kind of loudmouth ladyboys. One of those kind of loudmouthed ladies' man, even though he's married. We're introduced to him by saying, "Oh, you've got to keep women on a short leash," and then his wife comes over and tells him to pick up the kids after school, and he's like, "Okay." And there's the HR manager. We're introduced to this environment where it's very incestuous, because again, if you work for a living, you spend more time at work than you do away from work. So everybody kind of knows everybody else's business. If you talk to somebody that you don't normally talk with and somebody sees you, then that must mean something. And, rumours and whispers. So the film does a good job of kind of creating that, and also creating that environment of cliques, depending where you are and kind of the ladder or what section of in this case, the slaughterhouse you work in. It's very cliquey. And then we're introduced to this female character who is the new quality inspector for the slaughterhouse, replacing a more popular character, and she is very standoffish, and immediately people treat her like a bit of a weirdo. She doesn't interact with people. She certainly doesn't want people to touch her. She's very precise. There's a run of produce that she rates as a category B meat rather than category A, and then when She's asked about it. It's because there's 2 mm too much fat, so that knocks it down to B, and that's a regulation. So she's very by the book. So it's fairly clear that she is on the autistic spectrum somewhere. It's not mentioned, but it's fairly obvious she's autistic. There is a theft of mating hormone, because you have that line about an abattoir a lot. We find out why it's there at some point during the police investigation. So the police investigation coincides with a kind of mental health check. So you have this doctor or psychologist who fancies herself a little bit and asks everybody questions, including what you dreamt last night. And it comes to light that both the finance guy and the quality woman both dreamt of deer. And this is how the plot develops, as both of them seem to be dreaming about the deer, the male and the female, and they have the same dream. And what can this mean? But because both of them are somewhat socially awkward or social pariahs within the slaughterhouse, getting to the point or getting to the bottom of the mystery takes a little while. But it is a fascinating journey. I mean, I guess this would be called a slow burn, and some people might find it a little bit too slow. But again, if you are hooked into the two characters, it can be a special ride. I mean, you could read it as it's actually a film from the deer's point of view, and it's actually the deer who are having daydreams about being humans. Perhaps. But again, we're still intercut with the deer, and we're always reminded that we're in a slaughterhouse of nice still shots of blood splattered everywhere, or cows' heads being chopped off. The woman is still going to her child psychologist, who's a little bit awkward, or child therapist who's a little bit awkward, and is like, do you not want to go and see an adult therapist? And she says, well, I am seeing an adult because you're an adult. She takes things very literally, which again is probably a sign of autism. So that's interesting, but again, we're not told why she went to therapy as a child, apart from the obvious autism probably, maybe Asperger's as well. So there's questions that are never answered, which I do like. We don't even get the deer's backstory. We don't get flashbacks from the deer's point of view, which obviously, if you're a very literal film goer, you want the director's cut with the deer's backstory in it. But she almost has to learn how to deal with people. I've been there. So she gets, she starts being very tactile with her food. She gets furry animals to touch next to her skin. There's a wonderful scene where she goes to a music store and pretty much wants to listen to almost like 30 CDs to find something that resonates with her, which is a wonderful scene. It's a very slow, because they're almost like two magnets that repel each other for various reasons. It does take a while, and then there's the inevitable arc. You could argue where it ends up might be a little bit predictable, but I do think it is a lovely journey. I could also argue that I would maybe finish the film at a different point. and if you've seen the film, and you know kind of what films that are, or what kind of endings I like, you might know what point in the film I'm talking about. But I'm not upset at where it ended. For me, 116 minutes is perfectly long enough, because again, if you get hooked into the characters, you want to know what their story is, you want to know what's going on. It's just a beautiful film. Watch it on as big a screen as possible for those wildlife shots. 2 great performances by the deer. There's real depth in those deer performances. And because deer are also hunted for meat, there's always that threat in the back of your mind. And as I say, you're always reminded that we are in a slaughterhouse where everything is treated as meat. So that's On Body and Soul. Another wonderful modern film. Yes, there are some wonderful modern films. This is just wonderful, great performances, especially by those deer. And again, if you've seen it, you could maybe answer the question, is the film actually about the deer dreaming of humans? Or is it actually humans having deer dreams? So thanks very much for watching this random review of 2017's On Body and Soul. Again, with this movie release the same as Border, which I did a random review of a few days ago, there's no special features, it's just the film. But sometimes the film is good enough. I would like to have seen interviews with the deer, but unfortunately that's not included on the Blu-ray disc. So thanks so much for watching. This is Solitary Ronin from Solitary Ronin Films, saying farewell.